A very wise, very dumb man once said,
"To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems."
I can tell you that's not true, as I hate the taste, yet I still encounter many problems. So, what is the solution to the torrenting journey that is life? Buying small trains has worked for me so far. This was one of my first. It is the Dapol Terrier, specifically Stepney, dating from the late 1980s. While no doubt a pretty endearing design by Stroudley, you can't deny the fact that the old girl's looking a little bit dated by modern standards. She's got a bit of a drab, flat paint job, and sounds like a gremlin that doesn't want to get up in the morning. This is currently the only Dapol locomotive I own, but now they've released another one that scratches the small engine itch and delivers the masses their fermented vegetable beverages. This is it, the new Dapol Hawthorne Leslie 040 saddle tank. This is a miniature version of the engine 3581 as preserved at the Foxfield Railway, and is a Footplate Models exclusive. As my first new tooled modern Dapol locomotive, and my first purchase from Footplate, I'm not 100% sure what is in store, but I expect great things, including the promised etched nameplates, die-cast chassis and parts, coreless motor and a flywheel. This DCC ready version did cost me the full recommended retail price of £126.36, but other versions of this loco are available from other retailers for less. The real-life engine, named Marston, Thompson and Evershed No. 3, was one of Hawthorne Leslie & Co.'s standard design industrial 040 saddle tank engines. This locomotive was built for the Marston's brewery in Burton-upon-Trent in 1924. It enjoyed a 31-year career before being demoted to the spare engine, covering for the primary loco whenever it was undergoing an overhaul. In 1967, Marston No. 3 was moved to the Foxfield Railway, where it can still be found today. Its most recent overhaul was completed in 2021, and the engine is out and about steaming once again. The way this locomotive was packaged was a first for me, as upon opening the box, which features a very nice line drawing, I discovered the engine is screwed to a Perspex plinth to prevent it from moving around. I've seen die-cast vehicles mounted in this fashion, but never a model locomotive before, so it was interesting but also made sense. The whole plinth can be slid out of the foam, which itself has a removable backing. In a preservation era overrun with BR black steam locomotives, the black on this, in combination with the lining, looks familiar yet unique. Side on, we can see a lot of fetching details. The crisp, clear lining, separately fitted pipework and reverser rod, as well as the pre-fitted etched nameplates. The cast wheels and stamped coupling rods are just as eye-catching, looking very oily amongst the brake rigging and sanding gear on the chassis. Atop the boiler we have lamp irons, a neat little metal chimney, a dome moulded onto the die-cast boiler, water tank cap, little separately fitted handrails, and a whistle, though I believe this is plastic going off the production samples. All in all, filled to the brim with details up here. The cab is also chock-a-block with separately fitted and painted controls and piping. Being open at the back, it gives a great window into the engine's controls and shows this may be the most detail-dense part of the loco. There are more details I could go on about, like the lined footsteps, pistons, sandboxes, but there is one specific detail of this loco that did cause a bit of a stir. Of all things, it's the separately fitted smokebox door dart. Others have described it as looking coarse and chunky, which may be true compared to many of the other finesse details on the loco. Once spotted, you can see what other people mean. Compared to the real engine, all around it just looks too big. The front of the engine also has one minor quibble. Between the two large sprung buffers, there is a section cut away from the riveted buffer beam to make way for the NEM pocket and couplings. This had to be done to install the couplings at the right height relative to the rest of the industry and the size of the engine, but some people who want to use screw-link couplers may have a gripe here. While the accessory bag does include noteworthy and valuable items such as etched builder's plates, alongside the expected screw-link couplings, There is no NEM pocket plug for filling that gap in the buffer beam should someone want to remove the NEM couplers. This is a real no-brainer of an accessory to cover this base of customization, and I'm quite surprised at its omission. The rear buffer beam suffers the same problem. Quality-wise, the locomotive feels sound. Nothing was obviously loose, bent, or poorly painted. The only minor qualm I noticed is the ever so slight gaps and glue marks from where the buffers were fitted, and where a little bit more care could have been taken. Still, I had to look really hard from above to notice this, and from a distance all appears well. Dapol have already provided their own video demonstration of how to dismantle the loco and fit a DCC decoder, so I won't repeat what they've already done. The link to the full video can be found in the description and is available on the Model Centre's YouTube channel. Inside the Hawthorne Leslies is space for a Sugar Cube speaker as well as a socket for an 18-pin decoder. When put on the scales, the Hawthorne comes in at 138 grams, which makes it a dense little beast despite its dinky size, and probably my heaviest loco relative to its overall size. The diecast on this and the flywheel are largely to thank for that heft. The wheel gauges come in at 14.5 to 14.6mm, which is close to what's expected. Overall, this is a small but impressive little loco. Well decorated, well constructed, with only some minor things to moan about, this is shaping up to be a delightful engine. Let's see if its performance lives up to expectations. Compared to my old Dapol Terrier, this thing runs so silently on DC it exudes efficiency. It's geared nice and slowly, so it's capable of a decent crawl. Despite the short wheelbase, the engine had no problem with point work. The coreless motor, flywheel and provision of pickups on all wheels helps to ensure Marston doesn't suffer any stalls or slowdowns. Going over the baseboard joins was also a cinch. Despite being small, there's also a firebox LED fitted alongside the provision for DCC and a speaker, and the LED shines brightly and consistently and definitely adds flair to flaunt from the open cab. Dapol really have a wonderful product in these little Hawthorne Leslie models, but I'm going to seek a second, rougher opinion. It's time to hand it over to our train racing driver. Some say that every year on the night of the accident, he celebrates his birthday, and that despite warnings from Charles Dickens, he is undeterred by premonitions of his own death working on the railways. All we know is he's called the Grunt. Now, getting the Grunt into the small cab is easy, as the roof is simply held on with magnets. It pops off and back on with great ease. I'm hope the Grunt knows what he's doing. And off they go at 50% speed, as we hope for a slow, prototypical lap more in line with the Hornby Tiger's 27-second performance. Marston passes round the newly decorated water corner as it goes, not stopping to admire the view. Sliding down the back straight, the Marston heads towards and past the farm. Rounding onto the final baseboard they run, and across the line. For comparison, here's a similar sized loco, also from the 80s, it's my dad's old Dapol Pug. Being decades old, this will really show just how far Dapol's engineering has come for these small 040s. Bloody hell, that shot off quick. Like a pug out of hell, it's round onto the straight. Back through the farm, towards the finish and across the line in no time at all. So, here once again we are looking for a nice slow lap time. More in line with the Hornby Tiger than with the LNER, A1, A3s, A4s, considering the Dapol Hawthorne Leslie was only a small shunting loco. So, The first Dapol locomotive to end up on this board, the Hawthorne Leslie, did the lap in 32.24 seconds, which is a scale speed of 31.3 miles an hour. So it is right at the bottom, exactly where we hoped it would end up. At 50% speed, it's a nice, sensible runner. It doesn't go too fast. Though, whack it up to 100, it'll be doing close to a scale speed of perhaps 60 miles an hour. And I don't envision one of these locos actually going that fast in real life, so it may still be a bit on the fast side. But hey-ho. Slowest on the board so far, that's a great start. And now for the Dapol Pug Ballistic Missile, or whatever that was. That one did it in 15.57 seconds, which is a scale speed of 64.7 miles an hour at 50% speed on the controller. That puts it just shy of the Hornby Mallard that we reviewed a few months earlier, which is frankly ludicrous, if at the same time amusing. But it does show just how far Dapol's engineering has come in the last 40 to 50 years. We now have a new Hawthorne Leslie 040 that is safer to run. You won't get shot in the face by it coming off the track. It's well geared and does those slow speeds nice and smoothly. So, great job from Dapol here.
Time to test the couplings, and for this job I've got together some Foxfield based wagons for the Marston to pull, coming from Dapol, Hornby and Bachmann. I'm hoping these couplings are the right height given they sacrificed part of the buffer beam. They are, and they went together perfectly. Off it goes, pulling a small goods train. There's lots to love about this little loco. It's rugged, restrained in performance but not strained in performance, and it's dressed well with all the details you'd expect from a premium loco. We can also get glimpses of that bright firebox LED, much more visible than on other locos thanks to the open cab. Being able to get the exact engine I've seen is a nice touch, so I'm glad Footplate did an exclusive run with Dapol for Marston number 3. It is the smallest engine in my standard gauge Nunn-Thomas collection, and is perfect for layouts of all sizes. On to my final verdict. For decoration, with the dual colour lining, which features on a lot of smaller tucked away parts, there is certainly a great degree of complexity on this small engine. Still, I can't find anything at fault or not to love. The lining is applied crisply, evenly and straightly all over. It makes for a delightfully decorated engine. Details and features. The features included here are excellent. Etched work plates are provided, as well as a well-functioning LED and provisions for DCC and sound. It's astonishing how much is crammed into this tiny 040, and that's not even to mention all the die-cast on this, the flywheel, the etched nameplates, fine-scale wheels. The details have been thoroughly provided. The only slight gripes are the chunky smokebox door wheel, but I'd take this over a flattened mould that's just part of the tooling. Some buffer beam NEM plugs would have been good for those wanting to use chain couplings, and crew figures would also have been nice. Niggles aside, this is a fabulously equipped loco. Quality. With a die-cast chassis, metal wheels and partial die-cast and some plastic parts, the bulk of this loco is made of great quality materials. Etched plates are provided, adding a further dab of quality on top of the metal strong design. The motor and flywheel run nice and smooth, and the firebox LED is a powerful light in this loco. There were no obvious broken, missing or bent parts, or blemishes to the paintwork or lining. The tiniest thing I could spot was perhaps some visible glue or gaps in the buffer housings, though I really had to look hard to notice that. All in all, with the materials this is made of and how it's been painted and put together, this is a quality little engine. Performance. The engine is nice and smooth, powered by its 4-wheel pickup arrangement, cordless motor and flywheel. This all comes together to make it a reliable runner that has no issues with insole frog points or baseboard joins. I encountered no cutouts, stalls or slows. Top marks on performance. And finally, onto price. For this exclusive model, I paid the full recommended retail price, so it's not the most value for money Leslie going from these new releases. The rest have all been built to the same specs. In my head, I believe a small loco should cost a small amount, and I remember when I entered the hobby, a small 040 prototype could be between £40 and £50 brand new. Here we are in 2024, where this saddle tank costs as much as a full Pacific Express engine used to cost. Having looked back at some of my older tank engines from the cheaper RRP eras, I can see where this increased cost has come from. The die-cast design, coreless motor and flywheel, and inclusion of an LED makes for a heftier, smoother, quieter engine, so the quality definitely shines through despite the price. In the era of the £100 to £150 tank engine, given you can get all of this for less than £110 at the retailers is really not bad value. There was nothing omitted here that made me feel especially shafted by what I spent. I'm happy with the quality, running, and look of this engine in the context of what it cost, even at the full recommended retail price. Overall, as expected, that's a full house of scores. So while this small loco might be expensive for beginners just getting into the hobby, as a staple of industrial railways and the heritage scene, I can recommend the Hawthorne Leslie as an essential piece of railway rolling stock, and an ideal model for filling the niche of small shunter on any layout. So, what do you think of the Dapol Hawthorne Leslie? It's the first newly tooled industrial steam loco that I've had the pleasure of seeing in action in person, and if the rest are anything to go by, this may not be the only one I pick up. If you've picked a Leslie up, please let me know what it's like. If you haven't, let me know what you think down below. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in another video very shortly. Take care.